And really, this story is kind of a preview of an article I'm working on, but I wanted to get it out there because I'm sure some of you have been seeing it go around on social media, and I want to give you just a little bit more detail. So we know that about a week ago, a little more than a week ago, Melania Trump kind of surprised everybody and just gave this press conference, unprecedented press conference, where she came out and said, hey, Jeffrey Epstein did introduce me to Donald Trump. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know Melania Trump. I mean, I don't know Ghislaine Maxwell. Ignore those pictures of us together. I'm trying to dispel rumors and all this kind of stuff. And we were told that she didn't even tell Trump about this, that Trump was caught off guard. And many people were wondering, why? Where is this coming from? Is there something that's about to break that we don't know about? And I think the answer is potentially yes. But the concern was, like, is this related to something bigger going on that we don't know? So we're going to get into that today now, and how this relates to a man named Paolo Zampolli. So first off, let's start with the Telegraph. Epstein rumors are nonsense, says man who introduced Melania to Trump. U.S. President's friend Paolo Zampolli says he is willing to testify that he was responsible for the couple meeting. And so again, what this relates to is that there have long been rumors and there have been claims in the Epstein emails that he was the one who introduced Melania to Trump. And this is because Melania Trump was a model, and she was brought to the US under what's called the Einstein visa, which most of us know is bullshit. She came as a model. She wasn't, some brilliant student here on a visa. And whatever, that's fine. But because of her modeling background and because of Trump's modeling industry, pageant show history, and because of Epstein and his connection to modeling and fashion shows, including through people like Jean-Luc Brunel, who was the head of M2 modeling agency, who was part of Epstein's trafficking network, who was arrested by the French police and then allegedly killed himself too in 2019. All of these questions swirling, people wondered, was Melania actually a victim of Epstein? Or at least was she purchased by Donald Trump from Epstein? You guys also remember during the Epstein emails that were coming out last year, there was this big scandal around this big giant kind of novelty check that Trump had signed for some amount of money. And it was kind of like a joke saying like, hey, thanks for the girl. Well, some people thought maybe this was Trump thanking Epstein for giving him Melania, for bringing Melania over from Eastern Europe and then, connecting her to Trump. But Trump and her and this guy, Paolo Zampolli, have claimed that that's a lie, that it was him who introduced the two of them, and it was not Epstein. Former model scout and close friend of Donald Trump has said he is willing to testify that he introduced the president and the first lady, not Jeffrey Epstein. Paolo Zampolli, an Italian-American businessman who now serves in the Trump administration. That's another thing, is he was awarded positions in, I believe, both Trump's administrations, and he doesn't have any political experience. So people thought maybe it was a quid pro quo for, being quiet about what he may know about Melania and Epstein. His comments come a day after Melania Trump, the first lady, made an unprecedented White House speech denying ever having a relationship with the late pedophile or being one of his victims. The 55-year-old former model also denied being introduced to her husband by Epstein. She said, I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I've never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant. I was never on Epstein's plane, and I never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convicted of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, or other repulsive behavior. And like Mr. and Mrs. Trump, Mr. Zampolli was part of Epstein's social circle. And this is because he ran something called ID Model Management, a modeling talent agency in New York. And again, there's so many connections, guys, to modeling this. In fact, I don't know if it's going to show on screen while I'm recording this, but let me see. I have all these folders of, I don't think it is going to show, but I have a huge folder here on modeling and Trump and just the connection here. Elite models and ID models, from John Casablanca, from this guy Zampolli, to Jean-Luc Brunel, of course, Epstein. And I mean, it's just, there's so much here, right? So the fact that Zampolli has been connected to modeling and to Epstein and knew him, many people were suspicious of this. And again, the Trump relationship connection. So while this is going on, though, a lot of people started to wonder, why is Melania speaking about this? Why is this coming? Where is this coming from? And as this article notes here, his comments of Mr. Zampolli saying, hey, I'll testify. I'm willing to testify in front of Congress. Trust me. I introduced the two of them. not Epstein. And there's been rumors that Melania was in a relationship with Mr. Zampolli first. And now, before I go any further, some of this might just sound like, okay, Derrick, this is just a bunch of rich people's, relationships. This is just gossip. What are you, Candace Owens? No. What we need to understand as I get into this deeper is that if Melania Trump is the freaking First Lady of the White House and her husband is the most powerful person in the world, and they're both more deeply connected to Epstein and the Israeli network than we have been told, the fact that they have been put into the White House and nobody has exposed this is kind of a big fucking deal. So it's not just some celebrity gossip. It's a little bit more than that. So Zampoli's comments came ahead of a publication of an interview with Amanda Ungaro, who was his ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, who she gave this interview to El País, a Spanish newspaper. Miss Ungaro is a Brazilian model. She was deported to her home last year. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And it has been alleged that Zampolli basically used his connection to Trump to get ICE to deport her before, she could reveal anything. And she was in fact sent back to Brazil, as you can see here. Trump friend asked ICE to detain the mother of his child. Paolo Zampolli, former modeling agency agent and longtime Trump ally, was in a custody battle over his son. An ICE official agreed to help. And here's a picture of Trump with Melania and Zampolli in 2016 right here. Again, the claim is that he may have dated Melania in the past. He claims he introduced the two of them. They all knew Epstein, or at least Melania definitely knew Ghislaine Maxwell. She claims it was just me being friendly whenever she said, love Mel, in an email, and that, there was no real relationship there. But I think we can all surmise that that's bullshit. So he gets his ex-wife, Zampolli gets his ex-wife or girlfriend, Amanda Ungaro, a model, also, again, another model, deported back to Brazil. And according to the New York Times and to her own testimony at this point, he used his connections with Trump to get her placed in ICE custody and ultimately deported, an outcome that may well have happened regardless of his meddling. But the ICE officials' willingness to spring into action for a Trump ally reflects a recurring theme of the second Trump administration. The levers of the government can be pulled to settle a personal score. So that's one piece of the puzzle, right? Now, let's continue on here. So she starts giving interviews to El País, and she's been talking to more and more people. And this is kind of what some people thought, okay, Melania is speaking up because Amanda Ungaro, the ex of Paolo Zampolli, who has a child with him, was deported. And she was posting on Twitter as well, going on to Melania's post saying like, look, I'm going to expose you, this and that. Now, before I go further, I do want to give credit to my friend and colleague, Whitney Webb, and Mark Goodwin. They wrote this report, August 2025. It's a deep one. First Friends, how the first couple's consigliere went from modeling mogul to special envoy. And they look at how Paolo Zampolli, who again has been pointed, he has like what is his title? Special envoy of the President of the United States of America for global partnerships. They look at, his whole history. And they did mention Amanda to their credit here. I'll read this here. It says, there's also the fact that Zampoli's wife, Amanda Ungaro, a Brazilian model whom he married when she was 19, she appears on the Epstein flight logs in the company of Jean-Luc Brunel when she was a minor. So she was flown on Epstein's plane with Jean-Luc Brunel, the disgraced serial abuser who was called out as far back as the 1980s in the 60 Minutes report, and nothing was ever done about it. I've got a copy of that report on theconsciousresistance.com, search Jean-Luc Brunel. And she was on the flight logs flying on Epstein's plane. And we go a little further here. So Brunel, on a flight accompanying Epstein from New York to Paris, brought one underage Brazilian teen with him named Amanda Ungaro. The flight coincided with Epstein's purchase of his luxurious French apartment, later linked to trafficking. Ungaro, who was born in 1986, was underage at the time, either 16 or 17 years old. A few years later, she married Paolo Zampolli, though they claim to have been dating for some time before their marriage. In 2001, 1 year before she flew on Epstein's plane, Zampolli was quoted by Vanity Fair as courting a, quote, young model who lived in Brazil, saying he was sending her Easter eggs and teddy bears to Brazil before they had even gotten together. Now, we don't know if it was Amanda Ungaro, but it's pretty clear that it was her, and she would have been 15 or 16 at the time, but we don't know for certain. So there's a lot more here that Whitney covers, Whitney and Mark cover from the past that I encourage you guys to check out. That will be in the show notes. But again, she pops up more recently. She's deported by ICE, and now she's speaking to Spanish media as well as Brazilian media, O Globo. She did these interviews. This was back just in late March. Brazilian former model says Trump ally used influence to have her deported amid child custody battle. And an exclusive interview with O Globo, Amanda Ungaro says Paolo Zampolli asked ICE to detain her and later contacted prosecutors about the couple's son's testimony. Then she says this, Brazilian ex-model describes Epstein flight. There were about 30 young girls, beautiful and very young. She says she saw minors sitting on Jeffrey Epstein's lap and alleged a modeling agent tried to place drugs in her bag on a 2002 flight from Paris to New York. The modeling agent was Jean-Luc Brunel. And if you can read this article again, this will be linked below. She was 17 when she was brought onto Epstein's flight. And, she was already kind of being brought into this world of Paolo Zampolli and Jeffrey Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel. Again, Zampolli founded the agency ID Models, which Epstein frequently visited in New York. We know that Trump was involved in models, and the two of them, Paolo Zampolli and Epstein, tried to buy Elite Model Management in 2004. And it goes on and on and on. You can see her name, Amanda Ungaro, here listed on the flight logs. Again, I will encourage you guys to read these show notes. I'm working on a deep dive article on all of this. But that brings me here to the latest news in just the last couple of days here. I tweeted this out. Why is the special envoy of the President of the United States of America for Global Partnerships, who has connections with Epstein and the Trumps, threatening to sue the media? Could that be because his ex-wife, Amanda Ungaro, says she has dirt on him and Melania? And I'll go ahead and open this real quick. This is what he posted this week. This is because the Italian media is now reporting on it. Not only is it the American media kind of picking up this story, where most of the American media is staying away from what she's actually saying, what Amanda Ungaro is actually saying. If you go to her, I'll open up her Twitter account here in just a second. But the Italian media is reporting on the Brazilian media, Spanish media. This is what he said. Second notice to all media outlets. We confirm that legal actions are currently underway across multiple jurisdictions, including the US, Italy, and Brazil. Our legal team is actively identifying and pursuing all individuals, entities, and accounts involved in the dissemination of false, misleading, or defamatory content. Any media outlet or individual that publishes, supports, or amplifies such content will be included in a class action lawsuit and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. So why is he running scared? Could it be, again, that weeks ago, Amanda Ungaro, she hasn't posted anything on her own account other than this one pinned post, but you can go to see her replies. She's been commenting and calling out Melania Trump for weeks now. You can go back and just see all the different places she's been commenting and calling out calling out Melania and saying, I'm going to expose you. I'm going to expose you for what I know and things like that. She might have deleted some of her posts, but you can see, you can find screenshots of them and stuff like that. So here she is, FLOTUS, First Lady of the United States. When we talk about breaking the system in the US, she's going on here. Yeah. So that's who is the wife of Paolo Zampolli, who is now warning the media outlets that he's going to sue them for talking about it. And as I tweet here, Zampolli is freaking out because Italian news channel Rai Play put out a new report on the story claiming that there's a deal between him and Melania and that Israel has pictures of Epstein and Melania that they are using to blackmail Trump. And here's the Italian video report. And as I say here, I'm working on translation. Somebody's already sent me a YouTube copy with the English transcript. I'm working on putting that out publicly, and this will be included in any articles I do maybe next week. Here's the Italian video report, and this will be in the show notes. It's called The Epstein War. Here is the Italian article. Let me go ahead and just translate it. Of course, the translation is not perfect, but it gives us some idea of what's being discussed. And it says, Melania Trump and Epstein's shadow. Amanda Ungaro's unpublished testimony to report. Zampoli's ex will reveal very embarrassing things. And so they talk about here. Let me go ahead and just control find Israel. Let's see if they got Israel mentioned. No, they don't have it in here. It's in the actual video. But this is some of that. And then again, you can find here is the report, the Epstein War right here on this Italian channel, Rai Play. And it's about 30 minutes long. They got an interview with Amanda Ungaro, as you can see right here. That's her right there. They even apparently interviewed Paolo Zampolli, and he's upset because I guess he said some things that he regrets now. But the reports out there, I don't think this scandal is going away just yet. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's just a matter of like, okay, this is just rich people fighting with each other. Yeah, that's one way to kind of break it down if you want to see it that way. That's Paolo Zampolli right there, and he's being interviewed by them. So I'm going to be watching this report tonight, and I will share my conclusions with you. But all of the show notes everything will be linked in the show notes if you want to dive into that.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.